Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in my constructed video series. This is Brian Kibler with StarCityGames.com, and as you can see on your screen, we're going to be playing some Standard today, and we're going to be playing a really sweet deck. I actually went up against this deck last week in round 1 of my video and had no idea what my opponent was doing, but after that found the list from Grand Prix Paris, which was this 4-color collected company deck, and this deck is sweet. The idea basically is that using as many of the sort of multicolor power creatures as possible with Savage Knuckleblade and Mantis Rider, supported by Collected Company. Collected Company is, clearly a very powerful card. It's had a lot of success in Standard since the release of Dragons of Tarkir, and this is one of the coolest ways that I've actually seen someone try to use it. Basically, anytime you're playing in a format with multicolor cards, you're frequently going to have a lot of success in some capacity, utilizing as many of those as possible. We've seen this for years, whether back in Invasion, Lorwyn, Ravnica block, and now in the Khans and Dragons of Tarkir metagame. Because multicolor cards, because they're more difficult to cast, are typically more powerful for their converted mana cost. You don't get a 3/3 Vigilance Haste flyer for 3 mana unless it's 3 of various colors of mana. So the value that you're getting off of every Collected Company resolution is way higher than you would in a typical deck utilizing Collected Company. You're going to find yourself getting 7 power worth of creatures off of it, or like multiple haste creatures or whatever, and that's just really powerful. And being able to utilize multiple, all of these colors worth of spells as well. This deck has Stoke the Flames, Dromoka's Command, and Ojutai Command. These are all very powerful cards. Ojutai's and Dromoka's Command, clearly gold cards that have sort of similar push power level. And then Stoke has been a standard staple since it was released. So you get to put all of these really powerful things into the same deck, and obviously the cost to you is the mana base. We have a full there's 11 talents and 3 mana confluence, which means that you're gonna sometimes suffer for the ability to actually cast your spells on time or do so without taking tons of damage. But the reward is that you get a super powerful core of creatures in your deck that can often make up for being a little bit behind the curve or taking a little bit of extra damage. I really like the fact that the deck includes Seeker of the Way. It's a card that saw a lot of play in Jeskai decks for a long time, but what didn't really get a ton of play outside of that. A little bit in Mardu as well. But now with decks, green decks have come to using Seeker, in part because it triggers off of Collected Company, you trigger prowess off of that, but also Dromoka's Command works exceptionally well with Seeker of the Way. Being able to Dromoka's Command your Seeker, you can often give it lifelink and +1. You give it lifelink with the trigger. You get +1/+1, then +1/+1 for prowess, and then fight something, and then you get multiple uses of the lifelink in the same turn. So that can really sort of turn the tide of a game life total wise because of that combination. I think that pretty clearly is going to have some difficulty with aggressive decks, which is part of the reason the sideboard exists. The original version had 4 copies of Hornet's Nest, which seems it's possible that that's the right direction, but I wanted to try some other stuff because playing Hornet's Nest in a deck that is otherwise exceptionally aggressive feels very strange to me. I wanted to go with the Erishin Cleric plan, which seems pretty obvious when you have Collected Company to get them. I was playing this in previous versions of Collected Company decks as sort of the anti-aggro sideboard plan as well. But I wanted to go up to the full 4 Dromoka's Commands. They work very well with Seeker of the Way, and obviously are great against burn spells, as well as Ajani Steadfast. The original deck had 1 Elspeth Sun's Champion in this spot, which seems, it's obviously a very powerful card, but seems like A, it's a very expensive card in a deck that doesn't have that much mana in it, and B, doesn't necessarily feel like it fills the holes that the deck has. It feels like this deck is going to, want some way to, come back in games where it falls behind, which Elspeth can do when you get to that point, but I feel like Ajani, life total-wise, being able to pump your guys and give them lifelink is going to help you get back into games where you fall behind in that axis of the game. So it's possible this is not their correct direction, but I wanted to try it out because I've been really impressed by Ajani, especially in decks that have big creatures in Collected Company. because Collected Company allows the -2 ability to be particularly effective because you're getting the additional +1/+1 counters on more creatures than you've just played, card-wise. So if you're able to Ajani -2 and have, say, Rabblemaster in play, or have Collected Company into various things, it's particularly powerful. And then the +1 ability, when you have cards like Savage Knuckleblade in your deck, is also extremely powerful because you're able to hit really hard, really fast, and get life back doing it, which in a deck that has as much pain as this one, with Mana Confluence and Yavimaya Coast and a bunch of fetches, it's going to come up pretty often. So other than that, I've mostly stuck with the sort of core that was played at the Grand Prix. Didn't want to mess too much with the deck, just wanted to try a few things out myself and see how they worked. So the Sideboard Plan against control decks, you get to bring in Disdainful Stroke and Negate and Treasure Cruise, which are all exceptionally powerful when you're dealing with decks that are trying to play sort of big spell long game against you. And you already have Collected Company, as well as just really hard-hitting, cheap threats against them, which is a great position to be in. So I'm definitely excited to see how this deck ticks, and we'll see how it goes against a variety of different decks, hopefully. Let's jump into the queues.